Hey everyone, welcome back to She Birds Podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Michelle, and today's guest is Joni. Hi, Joni.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I'm a former musician. I played about 20 years. I played Latin music. I played with people like Carlos Santana's brother and a couple of the people that were with him in Woodstock. Um,
Okay.
and uh, and when I left the West Coast, I left all my musician friends behind, so I went back to writing, something I had started in college.
Oh, nice, nice. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your series, The Lost Art of Magic. So your series, The Lost Art of Magic, is captivated by many readers. What inspired you to start this magical and mysterious?
I This was something that had been rattling around in my head for years before I quit playing music. And when I finally had an opportunity, I started. You know, it was kind of. I left. It was a difficult time. I had remember when we had the housing crisis, and jobs in my area had laid off everybody, and I ended up having to take a job out of state. And so I was in my hotel a lot, and I thought, well, you know, let's get back to writing. And it was a challenge at first, but it was something I became quite comfortable with, and developed, my own strategies on how to go from a simple idea to a complex novel.
Oh, okay, nice. So, in the Lost Art of Magic, magic plays a central role. How do you balance the fantasy elements with the human experiences of each characters?
Well, first of all, unlike high fantasy, my well, it really takes place in the modern world, um, and the idea is that there used to be magic, and it disappeared, and nobody knows why. And it's been so long that people just assume that magic was just something that people made up because they didn't understand how the world worked. In my story, our heroine is able to relive her ancestors' memories, and so I said it's in modern times, but it does travel back to the Dark Ages, and finds her in different memories, learning different things about her family and about her craft. So it's there's
Oh,
no deep dark devil stuff. It's but there are bad people, very very bad people, and it just explores the possibility that you know maybe there's a reason it went away. Maybe the power behind magic went away, and after 1,000 years, maybe it's ready to resurge.
ooh, nice. So, in the Untold Prophecy, the second book of the Lost Art of Magic series, takes the story new heights. What is your process for expanding the plot and deepen the mysterious in this installment? The
Well,
mysteries in this
I
installment.
I hadn't started out thinking I was going to make a series. I thought I was just writing a book, and feedback that I got was, "We want more. What happens next?" So I went through the first book, and I picked out a couple of things in the first book that I could turn into a second book and a third book, and the Untold Prophecy is one of those. It was, and this was right on the brink of magic disappearing. Um, and
Oh,
and these witches were trying to go to the sorcerer clan, and the sorcerers were able to do lightning and fire and move things, while the witches were able to get in your mind, read what you're thinking, maybe even put a thought in there. So they figured out why it was disappearing, and they were going to tell them why it was disappearing. But the powerful fire wielders were too arrogant to listen to what they had to say. And so this is where the untold prophecy takes place. The witches were delivering a prophecy that if they continued on the path they were on, magic would disappear completely, until one day somebody came forth and brought it back.
Ooh, nice. This kind of reminds me of Charmed. Have you ever watched that series, Charmed?
Well,
It's
I
my
love
favorite show.
Charms. Yeah.
I do too. I have all 8 seasons. This
The
reminds me of
original?
it's right up my alley. Yeah, the
The
original,
ori-
original.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes. This is right up my alley. I love it. I love it. So, are your books on audiobooks yet? Or Audible?
Only the first one is. The Lost Art of Magic is available on, well, it is on Audible. I'm not sure if I have it available right now because I took everything off of sale to start reintroducing them under my new publishing company. And I don't think I've redone the Audible yet. It's on my list.
Ooh, let me know when it gets on Audible because I'm a huge Audible fan. So I have 1,000 books on there. So yes, definitely will be
Oh,
picking this up.
it's fabulous. And my narrator did a wonderful job because I'm throwing accents at her from all over the place. Cockney accents, the Southern accents, uh, um, Irish, and she took them all and she brought it to life.
Ooh, I love it. So in The Old Child, we see characters undergo significant growth and development. What is it like to write a book that focuses so heavily on transformation and coming of age?
I I did not originally intend for these to be so much coming of age, but that's really what they spoke to me. And in this book, I take a character from the second book, a young 12-year-old redhead who became very close friends and became family with our heroine. And it turns out she had a strong inner magic of her own. And so, but at the same time, she was like one of those people you say, oh, they've got an old soul. Well,
Mhm.
she shared a soul with one of their ancestors. And that's as far as I want to go without giving too much away. But yeah, she's the old
Ooh,
child.
I love it. I love it. So how do you keep the momentum going in a series like The Lost Art of Magic, with each book's adding layers to the plot and the lore?
Well, one thing I did was a doozy of a cliffhanger where our heroine met with a untimely disaster at the end of the second book, and she found herself in a coma, in dire trouble, but still able to reach some people with her mind. But she was in a coma throughout the third book, and the third book is leading towards either the world is going to collapse under this catastrophe of these other powerful people with nobody to keep them in check, or they were going to have to find a way to save her and bring her back and deal with the menace that had grown.
Okay. Nice, nice. The Orb of Destiny in the Lost Art of Magic series introduced new elements of faith and power. How did you come up with the idea of the orb and what does it symbolize in the story?
Well, the orb actually came from the first book. It was something that one of our ancestors was just showing off and playing with and rolling around and doing magic tricks and then hiding. And but in reality, the orb is much more than a small piece of crystal. It's actually an inner power that gets transferred from parent to child. And I initially only meant to have the orb was going to be the third book, and it just grew so much, and the characters became so interesting that I ended up having to split it into two. So the Orb of Destiny finishes the plate that began in the Old Child.
Oh, okay. Nice. So, how did you ensure that each book in the Lost Art of Magic series is self contained yet contributes to a large story arc?
Well, I crossed my fingers. And the third one or the fourth one, especially the orb, was the hardest one to make self-contained because it was ripped out of the third book. I actually had a third of it written in the third book, and I had to rip it out and somehow patch everything together to make it its own story. So in many respects, it is kind of a part two, but I still try to introduce you to all the characters, and I don't take a lot of time making it hard for you to figure out who is good and who is bad, because the whole series is about good versus bad, and a little bit about the patriarchy and ultimate power and control of other people. So it's getting into the fourth book. Really, as you get in the middle towards the ending, that's where it breathes its own life. In the beginning, it's kind of a continuation of the third book.
Okay, so this is a question outside of your question. So, has any other like TV series or movies like inspired this? I know you said you like Charm too, but did anything else inspire this series?
I'm a huge fan of Merlin and the Arthur stories. And in some way, the series of Merlin books, I don't want to say they're written by Mary Stewart, where she introduced Merlin as an engineer. He was able to do things because he was intelligent, and he knew how to manipulate things. I mean, building things, making things. He had that kind of a mind, but he also had the magic, and he had a special place he went to recharge. And that kind of inspired me to try to figure out, how do I make magic something that I can explain in the real world with, whether it's physics or something, but so that it's not something that's just like, oh, what was that? We can't. No, it's real. It's real. And as a matter of fact, in the fourth book, you do have scientists that are trying to understand the power and recreate it, which doesn't really lead to a good ending for them.
Ooh, I love this. So, many fantasy novels have specific magical systems. How did you create the magical system in the Lost Art of Magic, and what rules or limitations are important for the readers to understand?
The main rule, and I'm going to give you a hint into the fifth book whenever that comes out. But the main rule is that, like a battery, you have a positive and you have a negative, and the electricity, the voltage, is the difference between the positive and the negative. You have, in order for a motor to run, you have to attach it to both ends. so that the power goes around and comes through.
Mm-hmm.
In my magic world, the two different clans of people are the opposite anodes of that battery. And in order for you to have the power of magic, they both have to exist. And the closer they get together, the more powerful that feeling becomes. That's the main rule I have, because I could not fathom the ability to create lightning or fire out of your hands. And then what do you got to do? Go eat 10,000 hamburgers to recharge that? No, that didn't make any sense to me.
That's cool. That's cool. So something about nobility introduces a shift in the genre. What inspired you to explore a different kind of story in this book, and what themes do you address in it?
Well, I started with, one, I was noticing a lot of my friends, other authors, were writing in the first person. And this is something I had never attempted. So I thought, okay, let me see what stories, ideas I have, and which of them might lend themselves to that. And I found this one. It was really a description of a character who was really smart, really clever, and was good at getting himself and his friends out of trouble. And that's how it started. So now I have a desire to write in first person, which was a learning curve all the way. I have a desire to explore this really interesting person, and so then I had to come up with some kind of a vehicle for to happen to him, to happen to his friends. And so I came up with this idea that a noble woman, a lady, a young lady, was in love with somebody that her father detested. Well, not him personally, the family. There was a feud. So, a little bit of Romeo and Juliet there. She was in love with somebody of the other family, and he wanted to come up with a way to make it okay, to say, hey, so his idea was, hey, Dad, I'm in love with this commoner over here. And look, they gave me a ring. I'm going to get married. And Dad's supposed to, explode and go, no, you can't do that. That's not how it works. Well, that was his idea. But instead of her going, some commoner over there, she picked him because he was the gardener's son. And she said, hey, Dad, yeah, I'm going to marry the gardener's son. And instead of blowing up, he went, that's wonderful. Well, that's wonderful. Let's bring his father over. We'll have a celebration. So that's how the plot starts. And you have to read the book to figure out, why wasn't he angry? Why was he so open-minded to this? And it just kind of it gets a little crazy. And I introduce so many new people and powers into the book that I enjoyed writing it, and I hope people enjoy reading it. I've got a couple reviews have come in already, and it sounds like they're pretty happy with it.
Nice, nice. So I wanted to show my listeners the books, what they look like. So that one's The Lost Art of Magic. And then this one's The Untold Prophecy, The Old Child, The Orb Destiny, and with something about nobility. Is this one different?
That one. No, here we're getting into spies and intrigue and sci-fi. It's a big book too.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, interesting. I can't wait. So, oh, go ahead.
I didn't say anything.
Okay. Oh, in The Mother of All Viruses, you dive into a more contemporary and potentially pain. I don't think I'm pronouncing it right. Narrative. What drew you to write about the viral outbreak, and how did you build the tension in the story?
That was actually the first book I started writing.
Oh.
And I now, based on my experience in college and the things that I learned there and the people I met there, and also because I am a IT programmer. Um,
Oh,
I had written a program years ago that simulated genetics, and the idea was that it could take two different. Now, I created these beings that had 2,000 genes spread across 4 chromosomes, and it would take them and it could breed them together and come up with a variety of children that had different aspects from each of the parents. I was able to accurately reproduce what happens when eggs and sperms, get together, and you get, oh, you got your mother's eyes, but you got your father's nose. So that was my idea. And in this book, a very clever programmer writes a way of improving his professor's programs by doing this, by saying, well, we're going to take all these, and the most successful ones, we're going to try to reproduce them and see if we can make an even better, more efficient program. And that is the start of the virus, the mother of all viruses. And unbeknownst to him, though, there are some other players that are trying to steal some of the stuff that he has in the computer, and then things kind of get out of hand as they leach out into the world and into secure computers at the Pentagon, and things get a little risky at that point.
oh, nice, nice. And this was your very first book you wrote?
The first one I wrote, but not the first one I published.
Oh,
Um,
okay, nice,
it was
nice.
too big. Everyone said you can't release a book that big as your debut novel. So I put it on the shelf, and that's when I wrote The Lost Art of Magic.
Oh, okay, okay, nice. So, the evolution of apes tackles a unique theme. How did you approach blending science fiction with social and um, wait, social questions about humanity and evolution?
Well, first of all, that is a short story. It it's not a full novel, and
Okay.
the idea of that one was that I wanted to do a parody on Star Trek, on
Ooh.
the characters in Star Trek, and they come to a planet, and they say, well, what do we have down there? Well, in this case, they're coming to a planet that they seeded, I don't know, 50,000 years ago, and they're coming to see. Let's see what has happened with this, where we went in there, and we gave the apes an opportunity to advance, and let's see what's happened. And they come back and they find a planet that is, the apes haven't done anything. They're still apes. But there's these other things that are warlike creatures, and they're thinking, oh, our experiment is a complete dismal failure. Until someone says, well, wait a minute. Let's not end this project yet. Let's give them some time. Let's come back and check on them, sometime in the future. Well, that's really, that's the story I was telling, is that, you know, uh, we have a chance as human beings to evolve into something better. And many of us are evolving into something better, but there are those that continue to devolve into something that's much worse. I
Hmm.
did not.
Yes.
I wrote this,
Yes.
maybe 10 years ago, and I did not expect us to be in a political climate right now that when they came back to this planet, they would go, "Oh no, this is a failure." Okay, that's the end of my political rant.
So, what challenges did you face when you transitioned between genres from fantasy to dispain? For example, how did you approach writing in different genres?
So far, the genres they kind of blended. Like for instance, the Lost Art of Magic is a fantasy. The Mother of All Viruses is a sci-fi. You know, when you come down to the end of it, but they both have chases. They have police. They have spies, and they have military mercenaries, and so there was a lot in common going on there. It's only on a different backdrop. And then as you get into the central the central storyline, it evolves into something that was very fantasy or very science fiction. So by blending those, it actually wasn't too tricky for me to go back and forth. Now, I've written two
So
rom-coms.
throughout your books, there seems. Oh, you did?
I have two rom-coms. Now that was a genre split. Now we already talked about something about nobility. That's a rom-com. I have another one that's just coming out. That's called The Diva of Mud Flats, and that is also a rom-com. And I just kind of, I just kind of enjoyed doing it. And I like I said with the nobility book, I thought, well, let me try writing something in first person. And so it was a growth experience for me. And when I got to the other one, I had this idea. Now, I had an idea about this woman who was really, really unpleasant. She was like a very, very good opera singer, and she made sure everybody knew that. She looked down her nose at absolutely everybody. Even kings and queens were beneath her. So I wanted to write about how difficult she could be and how fake she was. She was obviously a very good singer, but a lot of her personality was absolutely a put on to appear more majestic in front of people. So that and as a genre goes, I don't know if I did it right. I just gave it a try.
Definitely. So have you gotten any feedback from your readers about the books?
I have a number of ratings and feedback on The Lost Art of Magic. I think it was The Old Child and the and something about nobility. And so far, it's been so good. It's kind of scary because at this point I have all 5-star reviews, and I'm like thinking, is it possible that it's really that good and that this will continue, or am I setting myself up for a big reality check and splash the water in the face when somebody comes up with 3 stars?
Ooh, no. Because it reminds me too much of Charmed, and Charmed was a hit. It made it 8 seasons, so maybe you should pitch that out to them so they can make seasons about your books.
Oh, I would love to hear from Hollywood. Are you listening, Hollywood? Just ring me up.
Yeah. So through on unraveling myths and uncovering secrets, what draws you to this storytelling approach, and how do you keep the mysteries compelling for readers?
That's a good question. I'm a big believer in giving the readers something to guess. I want them thinking, oh, I know how this is going to end. I know who the bad guy is. I know this or I know that. I know who's going to end up in love. And I give them clues, but I will also give them some other clues. And I try not to make it too obvious, but I also twist a lot of threads, a lot of things going on at the same time. And
Hmm.
one of my readers said they thought this was a very cinematic style where I'm
Hmm.
going from scene to scene to scene and back to the first scene. And that's how I kind of allow time to pass, because I don't tell you everything that this person did and then rewind time and tell you everything this person was doing in the meantime. No, I'm going back and forth between them. And I think, and somebody can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think I can change the speed and of each of these scenes to a point where I'm compelling the reader to move forward. And I do know that I had several reviews that were of the "I can't put this down" type. And so I'm hoping that I have found a formula that is going to connect with more readers who aren't off put by the constant changing and can just follow it through. And also, it'll make it easier to script.
Nice. So, do you have any favorite characters from the Lost Art of Magic series or any of your other books, and why are they so special to you?
The the old child is very special. Um, she was young, and she is young and innocent, and at the same time, she has an old soul that rides within her, and she says things that people stop and go, "Huh?" Because she's so young, and she says something very mature. Um, she is a favorite, but I think most of all, the most favorite was the diva, who is the cantankerous, nasty opera singer. Um, and a lot of times you want to have a character that progresses and evolves themselves. In
Hmm.
her case, she didn't really evolve as much as the world around her evolved, and she found her place in the world.
Yes, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, in any of your other books, did you have any favorite characters like the mother viruses?
Um, oh, well, I'll tell you this. My therapist read that book, and
Oh,
her favorite characters are the professor and another professor who he's kind of a old fashioned, wears tweed type of a guy, and he's kind of, uh, you know, picture more like Colonel Sanders, a little bit younger, with this really really hot professor, and and they don't look like they should be a couple, but they just got along and they became a couple. And my therapist loved that story out of the whole book. She read it for that storyline. So as a couple,
that's
they're a favorite character too.
that's amazing. So, my last and final question before I let you go: what's next for you? Are there any upcoming projects or any new books you're excited to share with your readers?
I'm releasing a new book every 6 weeks, so they're all coming out. But right now, the one I'm working on is the third and final book of the virus series, and in it, I am taking a artificial intelligence that actually achieved personhood, and he achieved personhood to the point that he ended up being contacted by the maker, by this, and so he's goes out into the universe to find the maker of all things, and so I'm simply addressing the fact that just because somebody tells you you can only have this person, that person, that person, that nobody else can have souls or they don't deserve a soul, doesn't make it true that there's one
Mhm.
who makes all the decisions.
That's true. That's true. I want to thank you so much, for being a guest today and sharing with your readers and my listeners your story and your writing journey.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
You have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey everyone, I want to thank you all so much for listening to my interview with Jonni. If you would like to go to her website, it is, let me make sure I have it up, jordanatlargebooks.com, and you can purchase all of her books, and they're all on there. So you can do her bio, her short stories, and contact her for anything. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you all have a great day, and thank you all, and have a great day. Bye.